The narrative opens in the Philippines, which is now overrun by hordes of voracious, mindless zombies. The protagonist, Francis Abel, escapes the pandemonium of Manila with his wife, Iris, and their two boys, Josh and Lucas. The family finds safety in an ancient, barren, seemingly abandoned home. Francis, armed with a metal pipe, carefully enters. Upstairs, he discovers a lifeless guy on a bed, with a pistol nearby, indicating suicide. Francis takes the rifle and the man's wristwatch, then goes outside. As Francis approaches the door, he meets an old woman who is transformed into a zombie. It is discovered that the deceased man above is Francis' father, and the zombie is his mother. Forced to protect himself, Francis shoots his mother. He buries both of his parents in a neighboring cornfield after being deeply frightened. That night, the family settles into the house, but Francis remains awake and unable to sleep. The next morning, Francis examines the water supply to ensure its safety before allowing his boys to use it. However, Iris is plainly angry at being confined to the house. Later, Francis and Josh investigate a neighboring property, discovering a radio, lantern, and several hens. They also find the body of the homeowner hanging from the roof. Francis urges Josh to remove the keys from the corpse's belt, but as he struggles, the body falls on him. Despite Josh's injuries, Francis refuses to aid, arguing that it is a lesson in perseverance. That afternoon, Iris leads Francis to the cellar to seek for supplies. There, Francis' violent father is discovered to have locked him in the cellar as punishment. Francis overcomes his residual anguish and discovers a depleted generator. During supper, Iris offers departing for a government-recommended safe zone to the north, but Francis insists on staying, believing the home is secure. The next morning, Francis and Iris chat beside the cornfield, and it is revealed that Josh is not Francis' real son. This discovery explains Francis' harsher treatment of Josh than Lucas. Despite his worries, Francis accepts to travel north for his family's protection. The family drives away in their van, with Iris directing. Along the way, Josh unintentionally learns that Iris had recently spoken with Francis' estranged brother Diego. Francis, enraged, loses control and crashes into a bridge barricade. With the path blocked, Francis proposes going home, but Iris tries to dismantle the barrier with a blade, drawing the notice of a zombie soldier. Francis goes to her help and shoots the zombie, but additional undead quickly surround the van, trapping the children. In a desperate struggle, Francis distracts the zombies as Iris saves their sons. Francis discovers a grenade on the soldier's body and uses it to take out the remaining zombies. The family narrowly escapes and returns to their home. 2 weeks later, Francis returns to the bridge and finds the van still operating. However, he decides not to leave the ancestral house. He returns with gasoline and lies to Iris, stating the vehicle is beyond repair. Instead, he starts the generator and surprises his family with electricity, air conditioning, and music. The next morning, Francis discovers a dog inside the chicken coop. The beast slaughtered the hens and bit him on the hand. Despite Iris' insistence on getting medical attention for possible rabies, Francis refuses to leave the house. Meanwhile, Josh receives a weak radio communication concerning a neighboring camp, but is unable to completely comprehend the message. That night at supper, Josh discusses the radio message he overheard with his parents, resulting in a furious confrontation. Iris wants the family to go and look for the camp, but Francis insists on staying at the home, reminding her of the dangers they've seen outdoors and accuses her of being overly interested in his estranged brother Diego. The next morning, Francis is repairing the chicken coop when Josh arrives and asks him to start the generator so he may play PlayStation. Francis declines their request, resulting in an argument. When Josh brazenly boasts that he can defend the family in the same way that Francis did at the bridge, Francis puts him to the test. Francis takes Josh to a neighboring field and begins teaching him how to wield a rifle. However, his teaching style becomes brutal, echoing the anguish Francis received from his father. Iris hears gunshots and goes to the field, only to discover Francis parading Josh. Before she can approach him, zombies attracted to the ruckus emerge. The family flees back to the house, the horde following close after. Despite barricading the doors, the undead get in. Just as the family is about to be killed, a vehicle appears outside, drawing the zombies away. The following morning, Francis follows the path to a nearby river, where he realizes that Diego is their rescuer. During their heated debate, it becomes evident that Josh is probably Diego's son. Diego apologizes for the past and offers to assist, but Francis, fueled by pride and hatred, declines. He even draws his revolver on Diego, who opts to leave rather than aggravate the situation. Before leaving, Diego leaves a map with directions to the northern camp. Francis first intends to destroy the map, but reconsiders at the last minute. When he goes home, he lies to Iris and the children, stating Diego had died before he arrived. Francis then works on restoring the home, board up the windows, and fortify their defenses. Later, Lucas chases a fly into the basement and discovers a zombie outside the window. Iris joins him and notes that the zombies are deteriorating, most likely from starvation. She promises Lucas that everything will ultimately return to normal. However, Francis overhears this and becomes even more desperate to protect their solitude. While traversing the property, Francis comes across a fragile zombie and kills it swiftly. He fabricates a tale for his family, stating that zombies are still wandering the neighborhood in large numbers and intends to keep them contained. During supper that evening, Josh recounts having seen a map with directions to the northern camp. This realization prompts Francis' possessive conduct. He attempts to persuade Iris that they should stay and focus on increasing their family, even proposing having another child. Iris criticizes the concept, telling out that their lives are far from normal and underlining the need of survival. She urges that they go out to restock their depleted food supply. This notion enrages Francis, who lashes out, disclosing their marital problems in front of his boys. He admits that Iris was preparing to leave him before the pandemic, which she does not refute. Iris expresses her anguish and begs Francis to give her the map for the sake of their children. Instead, Francis takes the map and burns it in front of them, eliminating any possibility of escape. Early the next morning, Francis visits the farm in quest of sustenance, only to discover a patch of sugar cane. As he collects some, faraway gunshots shatter the air, a disturbing reminder that other humans are close, fighting zombies. That night, Francis gets a hefty wooden plank from the basement and uses it to block the front entrance. He locks it with a chain, further separating his family. Iris and Josh get more annoyed by his domineering conduct. Josh accuses Francis of behaving similarly to his violent father, which raises tensions. Francis gets enraged by Josh's statement and hits him. Before the situation worsens, a desperate knock resonates from the door. A guy outside introduces himself as a soldier and requests refuge. Francis disagrees, but Josh defies him by removing the barrier. Cordera, an injured soldier, comes inside the home and collapses from fatigue. Iris, using her nursing knowledge, instantly attends to his injuries. Cordera claims that he is the solitary survivor of a convoy ambushed by zombies as it returns from a supply mission. He almost escaped with the aid of a stranger who led him to their home. Iris believes the anonymous donor was Diego. Francis reluctantly permits Cordera to stay, but only in the basement. Late that night, Josh tells Iris about his intention to leave the home to find Diego or the alleged camp. He confesses he knows the truth about his biological father, but he maintains that Francis is the only parent he has ever considered genuine. The next morning, Francis discovers Cordera enjoying breakfast with Lucas, but sees Josh is absent. When Iris refuses to answer his inquiries, Francis bursts into Josh's room and finds the door unlocked. Francis becomes enraged when he realizes his eldest son has gone missing. Overwhelmed with rage, he gets a hammer, storms back into the kitchen, and smashes Cordera in the head, killing him instantly. Francis, driven by his rising rage, turns on Iris and brutally punches her senseless. When she regains consciousness, she realizes that she and Lucas have been confined in the basement. Meanwhile, Francis' grasp on reality deteriorates. In a horrific act, he murders the family dog, prepares its meat, and descends to the basement dressed in Cordera's military uniform. When his family refuses to eat the dinner, he destroys the dish in wrath, revealing a horrific childhood memory of his father beating him for leaving food unfinished. Iris and Lucas devise an escape plan. Hours later, Francis is jolted awake by Lucas' piercing cries. He hurries to the basement, only to be struck by Iris's large piece of furniture. The hit knocks him unconscious, allowing Iris and Lucas to take the keys and depart. Francis regains consciousness and attempts to follow them, but the horrific images of his father imprisoning him in the basement paralyze him with dread and wrath. Meanwhile, Iris and Lucas grab some supplies and go outdoors, where they are ambushed by a zombified Diego. The terrified couple flees back into the home, but Diego clutches Iris' leg. When Lucas attempts to interfere, the zombie attacks him instead. At that vital time, Francis emerges from the cellar, brandishing a sword. In a grueling struggle, he kills Diego, but not before the zombie bites Lucas in the arm. The family is faced with an uncomfortable decision: amputate Lucas' arm or watch as he succumbs to the illness. Iris, heartbroken, prepares for amputation, but Francis stops her. He demands that they try to reach the nearest medical institution. Determined to save his kid, Francis rushes to the bridge where the family's van was abandoned days before. Unfortunately, Josh is already there, equipped with a rifle salvaged from a soldier's body. As Francis approaches, drenched in blood and wearing a ragged military uniform, Josh misidentifies him as a zombie and fires in a panic. The bullet hits Francis, who falls. Josh rushes to his father's side, begs for forgiveness. Through laborious gasps, Francis assures Josh that he has always loved him as if he were his own son. In his final words, Francis encourages Josh to steal the vehicle and save Iris and Lucas. The video finishes with Josh driving the van back to the home when Iris notices him through the doorway. However, Lucas' unknown destiny hangs large, filling the viewer with a disturbing feeling of dread.